When I eat my steak from my farm, my cows are grass fed. All they do eat is grass and hay in the wintertime and drink well water. There's no toxicity level. When they eat the greens, it processes through their body so it doesn't convert into oxalates into my body. I get pure meat, but I get all the nutrients. And I thought, why why have to eat the plants then? This doesn't make any sense. Hopefully, if you hear this, go do your research and start looking at this and find the science. If you find the science, you'll see how clear it is.
Welcome to the Plant-Free MD podcast with Dr. Anthony Chaffee, where we discuss diet and nutrition and how this affects health and chronic disease, and show you how you can use this to optimize your health and happiness, both mentally and physically. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining another episode of the Plant-Free MD. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Chaffee. Today, I have a very special guest, Dr. Aaron Tressler, who is a chiropractor and recent carnivore enthusiast, and who, it turns out, played rugby with a good friend of mine, Dr. Steve Goodkind, who I played up with in Seattle. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Anthony, for having me. And, just what you do for the community, a big thanks, because it's transformed my life. And I hope to get this across today, how powerful this is. But, what you're doing in the carnivore community is awesome. So I'm excited to be here.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to the carnivore diet.
I'm going to share my story. And, first, I have 5 kids. I live on a 65-acre farm. My kids are older now. I have 4 girls and a son, all amazing and all eating more meat now. I raise over 100 animals on my farm, full-time chiropractor, and still love to play rugby. I just can't get it. I feel like I've been injected with the rugby serum, 35, 36 years ago, and I can't get it out of my system. So, but it drives me to stay healthy. And I think, well, as I share my story, hopefully this will encourage people to say, you know what, we're meant for more. So, so if I can, I'll just dive in and share. When I was a kid, I was always sick. I wet my bed until I was 9 years old, had stomach issues in 4th grade. And by the time I got to high school, I had horrible diarrhea problems, GI issues. So from early on, I had this GI system that was a wreck. Never knew what to do. We never went to the doctors. I just self-medicated. And when your gut goes, you start to get immune system problems. So I had allergies and sinus trouble. Yet I was a top athlete in school, yet I was always sick. And one day, in high school, we're talking 15, 16 years old. I couldn't make it to the bathroom in time during sporting events, high school, just sitting in class, I get these spasms in my bowels. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? One day I bent over, I was 17 years old, and my right low back, my right SI joint just locked up on me, froze up. I dropped to the ground. I was crying in pain, never cried in front of my dad. And a buddy of mine went to a chiropractor. And I said, Dad, I think we need to go to this guy called a chiropractor. This is a godsend because we never went anywhere. If I came in bleeding, my mom would put my head under the sink, give me a towel and say, get out of here. Mm-hmm. And so he goes, all right, we'll go to the chiropractor. So this chiropractor lays me down, doesn't take an x-ray, doesn't teach me anything, doesn't show me any charts, what he was going to do, lays me down and adjusts me. And I get up, I'm out of pain. I'm like, wow, that was cool. I have no idea what he did. My dad at the time was 47 years old with heart disease. He couldn't have walked, Anthony, from the parking lot into the office without bending over, holding a knee, and heavy breathing. His heart was just so bad at 47. And I'm 58 right now. So putting things into perspective, this is crazy. So he says to me, Aaron, if you're in pain, come back next week. Mr. Tressler, if he's in pain, bring him back. I didn't have pain for 5 years. It was incredible. But I still had my sickness, and I didn't know it related at the time with my low back. So I graduated high school. I go to college for health and physical education. My dad dies at age 50 of heart failure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I remember drawing a line in the sand then and saying, bull crap. I am not dying at 50. I'm going to stay healthy. And I thought it was all about being physically in shape at that point because I was in phys ed. So I graduate, I go to Florida, and this is where I picked up rugby. So at 21, I start playing rugby. I'm a phys ed teacher. I am a fitness guy in the gym, working out 7 days a week. And one day on the rugby pitch, my back does it again, goes into spasm. I drop to the ground. And after about the fourth or fifth episode, I thought, I gotta find an answer to this. This is crazy. So I had an HMO. And what do you do with an HMO? You go to your HMO doc. So I went to the physician and he said, look, I'm going to give you some meds and you need to stretch your hamstrings and do more sit-ups. And I was like 22 at the time. And I thought, do more sit-ups. I work out every day. I'm in physically top condition, playing competitive rugby. This doesn't make sense. So I eventually went to a chiropractor. He took an x-ray. And this was life transformation. He showed me an x-ray of my pelvis and it was on level. My right side was lower than my left. There was an imbalance there. He explained that imbalance can cause nerve pressure, can cause muscle imbalance, causing the spasm. I'm like, that makes sense. So I got care. Pain went away pretty quick. I wanted to get out of teaching. So I chose chiropractic and I went to Life in Georgia because it was one, it was the furthest south because I wanted to stay in the heat. And two, it had one of the best rugby teams in the country and they offered scholarship. So I'm like, no brainer, I'll go there. Yeah. So my back, what was crazy is my back healed up very quickly. The pain was gone. I was playing rugby. I played all 4 years there. And at that level, I mean, playing in Florida, going to that level, we jumped a whole new level. I mean, it was very competitive. I'm a small guy. I was about 162 at the time. I'm playing with big guys trying to kill me. And my back stayed fine, but it was within about 3 months, I noticed my digestion all healed up. And I was still having issues at the time, sinus issues, allergies, GI issues, running to the bathroom. And I realized it healed up. And I was learning in school that the nerves in the low back not only go into the muscle, but they control organ function. Take pressure off the nerve, the organs can function properly. And I thought, wow, this is playing out. I'm like, I wonder if this is going to be for real long term. Well, it's been 36 years. My back has been fine. My GI system has been fine. And I healed up through that. So and I'll kind of fast forward here, as I start, I play through school, I graduate, I pick up a team here in Greensburg and where I live, it's outside of Pittsburgh, continue playing. As I continue playing over the last, I don't know, 30 years, it's crazy to think that, I'm playing with guys that I played longer than they're even alive. Yeah. And I broke my ribs a few times. I had a couple rotator cuff tears, meniscus tear in my knee, concussions, and this isn't all with rugby. I have a farm and had some accidents. But what I realized with proper lifestyle, exercise, and chiropractic, I was able to heal through those injuries without surgeries, without prescription drugs. It was incredible. So what I learned in school, and this was, man, I wish I'd have learned about carnivore back then. What I learned in school was more of a plant-based whole food diet. And back in the 90s, we were taught soy is good. So we were buying cases of soy milk for my kids. I know. I asked them, I said, please forgive me for doing this to you. We were buying soy burgers and soy meat and, we were going like plant-based, but I didn't give up meat, but I definitely didn't eat bacon. I didn't eat pork. I reduced meat consumption. We learned that if you eat, a pound of broccoli, it's as much protein as you can get from a small steak. And, the crazy thing, and I'll kind of go through this, my lifestyle, but you can't sustain that. You can't eat bags of broccoli. And then when I learned about the toxicity, I'm like, oh God, I'm poisoning myself. It's just unsustainable. So anyhow, as I learned that, I applied that over the last 30 years, eating healthy, healthier meaning not the garbage food out there, the processed garbage. I was eating at least real food, but not a carnivore, which I now know is optimal. So 9 years ago, I decided, you know what, maybe I should stop running and lifting so much, the pounding on the joints. I'm going to buy a bicycle. So I'm going to bike for some exercise. Well, wrong decision. So I'm out on the in the country one day. I'm riding, like 7 a.m. in the morning. I'm coming down a hill about 35 miles an hour. And my front tire came off. I go straight down on my head and shoulder. Thank God I turned my head because I hit the side of my helmet, cracked my helmet. But I hit my shoulder. When I came to, I called my wife and I said, I got to get to the hospital. Finds out I fractured my scapula, which when I saw the surgeon the next day, he looked at me and said, "My God, how did you fracture a scapula? No one does this." I said, "Well, 30, 35 miles an hour, hit the pavement." He said, "That's high impact injury." So I said, you know what, I can heal from this. And I'm a Christian, and I was reading the Bible the day before, and I got some scripture. This is a pretty wild story, but I'll just summarize it. It basically said, look, you can heal. Our bodies are meant to heal, and you're going to be strong. And I remember telling my wife, "Hon, I'm playing rugby again." And this is the next day. I'm in a sling. I can't move. I'm crying in pain. And she goes, "Are you insane? Just stop. Just give up." I'm not giving up.
Give up.
So I said,
Give
I
up, you're
said,
done.
it's
Yeah.
it's they think I'm crazy. I mean, most people do, but I'm like, it's okay. It's working for me. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna go after this. So with chiropractic care, I sort of, continued getting adjustments. I took my arm out of the sling the next day and started moving it because movement creates healing. You got to move. You can't let it sit there. Um, Exercise. I exercised every single day. I couldn't use my right arm, but I'd use my left and I'd use my legs. I'd go out for a walk. I started to jog. My son was training for cross country at the time, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna run. I'm gonna run a race with you in a few months." And it's like, how you can't even walk right now. Um, but I went after it. And if you apply movement, and I was eating clean, taking supplements, getting adjusted, I was healing pretty fast. So within 2 months, about 2.5 months, I ran a 5K race with him. I did it in 21 minutes. So it's not, I wasn't out there walking. I was going pretty quick. And my body was healing. But every single day, and this is where when people are in a crisis, and, we're told many times, take it easy, slow up, don't hurt yourself. I was in pain. Anthony, I cried every single day in pain. I'd be in my office. I was doing exams. I couldn't adjust. I felt this like it felt like warm oil was being poured over my head of pain. It was a weird sensation. I would feel this sensation coming on, and I would go, "Oh God, here it comes." I'd run, get some ibuprofen, never took an opioid through this, to get some ibuprofen, and I would go outside on the back porch of my office and just cry like a baby for about 10 to 15 minutes. I just couldn't stop it. And the staff knew. They're like, "Oh crap, here he goes." I'd go outside, close the door, cry. The ibuprofen would kick in, the pain would subside. I'd wipe off my tears and I'd come back in. And they would look at me. They could see this look of mine. They were like, "You sure you don't want to go home?" I'm
Hmm.
like, "No, I have a job to do, and I'm here, and I'm going to beat this damn thing. I don't care. I'm going to do it." And that happened every day for, it was 6 weeks. And it was the
Jeez.
6 week mark that it finally kind of subsiding. I had a day or two that I didn't cry. I had 3 days I didn't have to take ibuprofen, and I knew I'm coming out of this. 5 months later, 5 months after I fractured my scapula, I benched 225, and I knew at that point I'm back.
Hmm.
And the rugby guys kept saying, "When are you coming back?" I said, "Just give me a little time. I broke my scapula." So 8 months later, I played my first match and continued playing since. And that was when I was 49. I'm 58 right now. Haven't missed a game since. And
Nice.
clinically, the prognosis when you break a scapula, you're not coming back, like this. You're not the prognosis isn't good. What I read online was long-term scar tissue damage, weakness, just you're just going to be banged up for the rest of your life. I didn't believe it. I took action and I healed. So as I go through all this stuff, I'm doing great. A year and a half ago, this is where the carnivore thing kicks in, and this is absolutely amazing. So I had a podcast for a couple years. I interviewed people like Belinda Fetke and
Hmm.
Professor Tim Noakes, and I'm learning about this eating habit, especially with Professor Noakes. If you don't know Professor Noakes, look him up. He's the most
He's great.
renowned researcher probably in the world on education, fitness, sports, and training. And he was the guy that said, "Carb up." And so I did marathons. I did some ultra marathons during the time, and I carved up, and it wasn't good. And so I'm like, it's he completely changed that and said, we don't need carbs for fitness. So I'm learning this stuff, getting very curious. So right before I went on vacation, a patient of mine says, Doc, he knew I was into this stuff. He goes, you got to look up Anthony Chaffee. He goes, this guy is crazy. All he eats is meat and he drinks water. And I said, all right, I'm gonna look this guy up. So I got your podcast and you and Dr. Baker, and I started listening to podcasts. And I get on vacation, I'm on the beach, I'm listening to hours a day of you guys, and it's pouring in. I'm like, this is fascinating. Why haven't I heard this? Why haven't I learned this all these years? It's been hidden. And, it's the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry that doesn't want us to know this stuff. So I'm on vacation. The first day I wake up in a new bed, my neck and shoulder where I had that fracture was killing me. I couldn't move. My back was hurting. And I thought, must be the bed. I switched beds. Second day, same thing. Third day, same thing. I went to 3 different beds. After the third day, I said, that's it. I'm trying this carnivore stuff. So I told my wife, I said, hon, I'm eating meat all day. She goes, she's like, and the response, what?
Yeah.
Are you sure that's healthy? And I said, listen, it's healthy. I said, she goes, what are you going to eat? I said, I don't know. Go out and buy me steak and burger. I think 3 pounds of hamburger that day. So I ate meat. And this is how profound the inflammation response can be. Because all I was inflamed. I was on vacation. So I had eaten some ice cream. I went to a German restaurant. We were eating bread with butter and oils. And, I was just eating more carbs. And that's inflammatory. When you're inflamed, you feel like crap. And I thought, all right, I'm gonna see if this works. The third day I woke up, I was brand new. I'm like, oh my God, my neck feels great, my shoulder feels great, my back feels great, inflammation dropped. That was in July last year. It's been a year, almost over a year and a half. I haven't stopped. I'm like, and I've had a few, I have had some fruit along the way, but I've eaten meat the whole time. I haven't taken a bite of a vegetable, which I would take bags of spinach, blend them, and put them in, some concoction of some protein drink and pound it with the amount of oxalates I was eating was sickening. And I went from that to nothing. And since then, I remember doing this and hearing, especially you saying, look, you don't need carbs to play rugby. So I was heading into the fall season last year. I'm like, okay, can I do this on a carnivore diet? Is this for real? I'm going to test it. At 57 last year, I just turned 58. Can I still do this? And if anyone knows rugby, it's a 80-minute match. It is brutal from start to finish. You're being chased, especially guys like me with gray hair. They want to kill me, and they see me smaller. I'm 165. They see me small and old, and they're like, I'm going to kill this guy, and I don't let them. I played 80 minutes, and I ended. I'm like, son of a gun, we can do it. So I'll kind of pause there, but it has been an amazing journey over time, and I only wish I had found the carnivore back in chiropractic school, so I could have implemented it then. Who knows where I'd be right now.
Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia. It's Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys. Yeah, or before, that's the thing. It's I think it's well, if I was able to do this when I was a kid too, I just always imagine sort of what else would be like, what kind of athlete I would have been, like how much taller I would have been, how much heavier I would have gotten, so it's and then obviously I flipped to this just randomly, luckily, when I was 20. But what would have happened if I just stayed with it, if I hadn't sort of gone off the path, if I had someone, that I could have listened to and said like, hey, actually, this is exactly what you want to do. That would have been really awesome. I think that's great. I think it's really a testimony, that you're still playing rugby, in your 50s, and you just haven't stopped since. Not many people can do that. Like rugby is a special sport because people generally get like quite passionate about it. I absolutely love it. If I was able to, I'd be playing right now. But it's one of those games that just like if you get the bug, like it doesn't go away. And that's awesome. So how have you feel now? So you've been playing this whole basically fall season coming into the winter season now, and you've been playing this whole time as a carnivore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I play my matches. I train, on carnivore, and I basically eat whatever I want. I mean, meat wise, if I'm hungry, I eat. If I eat 3 meals a day or 1 meal a day, it doesn't matter. And what was crazy is when I would eat more of a plant-based diet before, I would blend vegetables. I would, eat pounds of vegetables a day, big salads, walnuts, avocado. I was never satisfied. Never. I was eating protein. I was drinking protein drinks throughout the day. I was eating protein bars. I was always craving food, always thinking about food. It was driving me nuts. I had to have food at my office. I'd go home and you're always craving, and you don't crave when you're eating carbs, you don't crave meat. You crave carbs because it's a drug, it's a sugar, and you crave that. And it was unsatisfying. I was always working on not eating carbs, and I would eat carbs. And it was healthy carbs, but I was always craving it. When I went and I started eating high fat, high meat, and I'll eat, half a pound of bacon for breakfast. I have my own farm, so more of a ranch. I have like 50 chickens, give me my eggs. I have 15 cows, 40 sheep, provide lamb and beef and my eggs. So that's basically all I eat. I'll eat 8 to 10 eggs. I'll eat half a pound of bacon if I want. And then I'm satisfied. And if I want to have a couple hamburgers at lunch, I will. If not, I wait until dinner time. But I don't crave anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And what is crazy? So I've been involved in fitness since the day I could move as a kid. 2, 3 years old. I was always active. I never had abs on me. I was never fat, but I didn't look like a strong athlete. I had a soft belly, had a little layer of fat on my belly. When I went carnivore, it was about 4 to 6 weeks in, I started showing abs. And I'm like, this is crazy that at 57 years old at the time, I'm getting some abs where my entire life as a kid and during my hormone years of my 20s, and I was playing rugby then, nothing. Like, this is crazy. And even I stopped drinking beer 4.5 years ago. And I remember that day when I stopped drinking, I'm like, man, I'm going to set some belly fat. And I wasn't overweight. I was about 170 at the time. And when I started doing carnivore, I was about 175. And it was just that layer of belly fat that you couldn't see your abs. I lost 10 to 12 pounds almost immediately within about 30 to 45 days. And I wasn't trying. I didn't really care to lose weight. I just lost belly fat and I started showing abs. I'm like, even with stopping drinking, it didn't happen. So I'd post these pics, and I'd only post them to my kids on our little family group chat. I'm like, look, I'm getting abs. And my one daughter said, Dad, you're like a little teenage kid discovering his abs for the first time. And I said, I am, because I've never had them in my life.
Yeah.
And it was just, I wasn't striving for it. It was just fun. And, but the satiety you get from meat and fat and the calories, it's amazing. I'll go home at night, and if I want to have 2 or 3 steaks, I do. But if I'm only hungry for a steak, like last night, I had probably a 30-ounce sirloin. I ate probably about 22 ounces of it, and I was done, put it away. I had it with butter, and I was done for the night. And it's the most freeing, easy diet I wouldn't say it's a diet. It's just a way of eating that I've ever had. God, I wish I had this when I was younger. And my dad, it was interesting when my dad had heart disease. When he was going to the doctor, they told him, don't eat meat, don't eat fats.
Yeah.
We stopped butter, and we went to those tubs of margarine.
Oh God.
Poison, that hydrogenated crap.
Yeah.
We had tubs of that. He started trying to eat better, and they told him, don't exercise because your heart's weak. And I'm like, something's wrong about this. So, just the whole system, the whole way of life with way we're taught from the pharmaceutical world, the drug world, the food world is for their benefit to keep us sick, pump us full of drugs, keep us sick, foods. I mean, it's just it's a racket. It's crazy. So, and we're in America. I mean, you were here. It's we're probably one of the sickest
Mhm.
nations in the world, and we have everything. And it's just this is crazy. And we get off the garbage food, eat right, exercise, and I look at the spine and our posture and alignment as part of that too. The top three. We do some simple things. We have powerful results, but that doesn't make them money, so they're not going to promote that.
Yeah. And the sad thing about that is too, is that, clinicians and people learning this, they don't realize that this is coming from, the food and drug cartels. I don't even think of companies anymore. I think of them as cartels.
Yeah,
And so we don't realize that our curriculum, your plant-based curriculum in chiropractic school, and my pharmacological based curriculum in medical school, this is all just coming down from the food and drug cartels. And then you go through residency and you have periods of training. I mean, you go to conferences and all that sort of stuff. They're almost always sponsored by Pfizer and Coca-Cola and all that sort of stuff. But really, the majority of your day-to-day education comes in. Tuesday afternoon, you get a catered lunch from a drug rep, and they come here and say, "Oh, here's the new research on drug X." And for some reason, when you're in that mindset and you're a hospital, you just think of these people as like the pharmaceutical, the research wing of the hospital. Like they work with you and for you to bring you the new research. And of course, they're not. They're salespeople, and that's fine. But we need to understand that that's their job. They're not trying to provide us that a balanced picture of all the data. They're just trying to sell their product, and we don't realize that. We don't recognize that. And so, very well-meaning doctors, like I'm sure your father's doctors wanted the best for him, but they gave him terrible advice. That was some of the worst advice that I think you could ever give a cardiac patient. And and that's something that these people are going to have to live with. They spent their whole careers giving people horrendous advice, and they could just go into denial and just be like, no, I'm never going to admit that this was wrong or I did anything wrong. Or you could be like Tim Noakes, who said, I got that wrong. I need to undo this. And he's been spending his retirement trying to undo his own legacy. I mean, he could have just retired. His books were selling. He was doing fine. He was a big name, and he could have just walked off, a winner. But he decided to undo his own legacy, and because that was the right thing to do. And so I think that's that clinicians have the right intentions much of the time. It's just a matter of getting the right information to them, something that's not adulterated by the food and drug cartels. And so, and more are, you are, I am, many doctors that I work with are not changing their tune. I have patients coming into me now, and I don't even talk to them about a carnivore diet. And they're like, yeah, so my GP, put me on, like, said I had to go keto and like try to transition into carnivore. I'm like, who's your doctor? Like, that's great. I want to know their name. Like, that's great. That's exactly what I would tell you to do in this situation. So, it is coming and it is getting better, but it's it has to move through, conversations like this where, people pass these things along and they educate themselves, because right now the education is coming from the wrong people. It's not coming from unbiased sources. It's coming from very biased sources. And,
right.
and we just don't realize that. Um,
Yeah. And I think unless they're willing to step back and say, look, I'm going to take time off my busy schedule. So your schedule's busy, so is mine. And most doctors have a busy schedule. They don't take time to investigate. And if you
mhm.
investigate just with Google or just, do some basic searches, you won't find it. You got to dive deep. When I did the carnivore, I heard Dr. Baker wrote a book, so I ordered it immediately. I read Sally Norton's book. I read the cholesterol myth. I read about 8 books because when I came back, patients were looking at me like, Doc, you're looking good. And I
Mhm.
didn't say anything. I'm like, okay, they're going to think I'm crazy. Let me get the science behind it. So I read, I would be up reading at 3 in the morning. I mean, my mind was just spinning with like, I wanted to learn this stuff. And the more I learned, the more I started to investigate. and the more it made truth. That's most people don't take time to get to that point. And I said to a patient asked me the other day, she said, I think I'm going to go on a fast, a water fast. And I said, okay. And I hate fasting. I'm like, I tried the intermittent fasting and all that stuff through this whole process. If you eat meat, I don't believe you ever have to do that again. But I said, why? She goes, well, I just want to reduce my risk of cancer and just be healthy. I said, valid point. Very good. I said, but do you know if you just want carnivore, you won't eat sugar, which sugar's the leading contributor to cancer and toxins and disease. I said, if you just eat meat, you don't have to worry about it. And she goes, I heard about you doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And her first thing was, well, what about cholesterol? And I said, it's a myth. It's a myth. And I said, I have a book if you're interested. What was interesting when I read the cholesterol myth, my cholesterol ratio, my triglycerides to HDL ratio, which they said in the book, that's a higher risk. If you measure that, you have a more valid point of heart disease or heart problems. Mine was 2.46, so almost 2.5. If it's under 2.0, you have a very low risk of heart problems. That was on a plant, vegetable, meat diet. It was like on a whole food diet. When I went carnivore, and I think 90 days in, I got my blood work. I want to see how it would affect me, because cholesterol changes all the time.
Yeah.
I don't even care to really, since then I haven't looked at it, but my cholesterol ratio, my triglycerides to HDL ratio went from 2.5 to 1.4. So I was under 2.0. So, and my resting heart rate over the last year is 53. So I said to this patient, I said, look, my resting heart rate is 53. I'm 58 years old. My triglyceride ratio, HDL, is low. Cholesterol is irrelevant. It's not the point. You have to look at other factors. And she said, okay. So I think she may read the book, but we're just not getting the information, and doctors aren't getting this. So unless they start reading and take time to start reading some books and dive in deep, they're getting it, like with just what you said, from conferences or from summaries of research done by Pfizer or some other drug cartel, like you said. They're getting a summary of what they want the doctors to know. They don't even get the whole article. So we're being brainwashed by who's above us, and it's unfortunate. I'm so thankful that I've always been intrigued with learning and kind of bucking the system and diving in deep, and that's why I play rugby. I just want to be different. I'm like, call me crazy. So when my patients they'll say, are you sure this is healthy? I always laugh. I'm like, I said to one patient, no, it's completely unhealthy. I said, are you crazy? I said, look, if I'm playing rugby at 58 years old, my body weight's good, my exercise is good, I can play with 20 and 30-year-olds. I'm not going to do anything unhealthy. So my lifestyle and this crazy rugby stuff gives me a platform to hopefully educate them and say, you know what? He may be onto something. So I hope it is. And I hope this podcast too maybe encourages people to say, look, we don't have to give up when we're 40, when we're 50. We can still do incredible things, but you have to take action. You can't sit on the sidelines, and you're sitting on the sidelines watching a game is not fun. Getting in and playing, even if you get beat up, is fun, but you have to take action to succeed.
Yeah. And the thing is too, is that you physically wouldn't be able to play rugby, at any age, if you're, to any great degree, if you're eating a very unhealthy diet. If you're in your 50s and you're eating a crap diet, there's no chance. I mean, you can get away with it early on, but you're certainly not going to have the performance that you would otherwise. But, as we age, you really need to be on point with a lot of these things, or else you're going to get a lot of serious problems. So I mean, the simple fact that you're able to keep performing is awesome. What position do you play, by the way?
I played, and anyone knows anything about rugby, if you watch a rugby game, the big guys are getting hit very hard all the time. I played scrum half, so I didn't get killed as much, but now I play fly half. And
Okay.
I told the team, I started doing that a few years. I went back and forth. My main position, scrum. but they said, hey, we need a guy to lead the team out here. And I kept trying to teach people how to play scrum half. And I said, all right, I'll play fly half, but I am not going to be the guy hammering in to these other fly halves. And I'll look at my opponent. I'm like, crap, he's 25. He's on the all-star team in Pittsburgh. I'm like, okay, I got to fly up so he doesn't get any ground on me or he'll kill me. And I'm still holding my own. And it's so I just avoid getting hammered anymore. I know how to kick. I know how to pass. I know how to read the field pretty good. So I can strategically get around the field pretty good without getting killed.
Mhm.
So and people will say, well, you don't hit anymore. And I said, no, that's impossible. I hit, and
Mhm.
I know how to hit, and I get hit. I said, it's minimal compared to what I did, 20 years ago.
Yeah. And then, so how do you feel this season as opposed to like previous seasons before you started Carnivore?
I really feel good. We just had a practice Saturday, and we had a fitness test, and we sprinted 50 meters, walk or jog 50 meters. We did that for 10 minutes, and there were 14 guys out there. I think I finished fourth on the team, um,
Nice.
with the amount that we did. So I was still up there, and I actually did a sprint workout that morning because I didn't know we were going to be doing this. So I I just never have stopped. I mean, I think that's the key to keeping this is I've never taken a season off. I've never taken more than a couple weeks off of working out. But I feel really good. And it was the first season, it was last fall. My daughter came home. I have two girls in chiropractic school, and Heidi's out in California at Life, and she's on rugby scholarship, which
Oh,
is
nice.
I never thought one of my girls would follow me into chiropractic and rugby, but she is. And she came home, her and her fiance, and she was watching me play. And at the end of the game, I'm still, juking down the field, making cuts, and still getting gains, on the field. She goes, Dad, you look better than you have in years.
Mhm.
And I said, it has to be the carnivore. The only thing I've changed over the last year and a half is carnivore. Just eliminate the carbs and the sugars. And I feel really good. I feel excited going into the spring season. I get I get geared up, and we still have a couple months to play a match, but I train hard, and I just love it. It keeps me going, and I think we have to find something. Mine is rugby. Um, I tried jujitsu, a couple of years ago because my son-in-law does it. I thought, well, maybe I'll add that in. I just didn't like it. I'm like, I'm good at rugby. Let me just keep going. But we have to find something that gets us up in the morning to say, let me go train. So
Mhm.
knowing that I have a match in 2 months, if I don't train harder than these young kids, I'll get killed. So I have to train harder. I have to visualize that I can still do this. I watch rugby every time I work out. I have rugby on the screen. Um, it's just part of my life. But that's what drives me to stay healthy. Whether it's pickleball, rugby, jujitsu, running, just lifting weights, like find something to get you up in the morning to say, I can do this. So now, my youngest, my son, he's at a D1 school running track and cross country. He might
Nice.
go to chiropractic school. It was funny. As we started learning this carnivore stuff, he said, I think I was more of a carnivore growing up because
Mhm.
he hated vegetables. And we'd say, eat your broccoli, eat your salads. He goes, I don't like it. And Aaron is ripped. He's like 6'2", 6'3", and I'm only five. I'm not even 5'8". I'm about 5'8". He's tall, he's lean, looks like a model. I mean, he's just ripped muscle wise, and he runs track and cross country. And so he's not a big lifter. Yet he looks really good. Looks like one of the Kenyans Messiah tribe.
Mhm.
And he was more carnivore. And I thought you were onto something. Maybe that's why you're 6'2" too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel great. I feel great going into this. My goal is to hit 60 and still play with the team here in Greensburg. I've played a few master games, but I can still do this, playing with the young guys. So my goal is 60, and then at 60, we'll see what happens. I said this when I was 50. I got back playing after my scapula fracture, and I played my last match of the season. I'll never forget it. I called my wife in the parking lot. I said, "Hon, I think this is it. I hit my goal. My goal was 50. I'm done. I'll coach the team and I'll play, intermittently, and if they need an extra guy. She goes, oh, good. This is good. You don't need to do this. You're going to get killed and blah, blah, blah. So we go out to play,
Sounds like my
and
mom.
it's been like that. And finally she stopped, because I would tell her, I'm like, hon, stop. Don't tell, she would say, don't get hurt. I'm like, don't say that. Say, go out and kill somebody. Don't say go get hurt. So I told her, and she was all happy. She said, oh, good. And because she's seen me live through injuries and agonies and stuff, but I've always come back. So I play the match. I still kick for the team. I can't give that up. I can still kick. I probably kick a 35, maybe a 40-meter kick. And I still love it, because it keeps me going. So I get to score. So I scored like 23 points that game. I had a try. I made like 8 kicks. I end the game. I'm player of the match at 50 years old. We win the game like 50-22 or something. And I call her and I tell her the results. And there's this long pause. And she goes, you're not quitting, are you? And I said, I can't. I said, I still have it. I still got it. I said, I can't do it. I said, I got player of the match. Damn it. I said, I'm in. And so then my goal was, can I get to 60? So I'm heading into 60. I feel like I'll hit that with no problem at all. So once I hit 60, who knows? Maybe I'll go for 65 or something. But it definitely, the carnivore diet gave me the edge. It increased my fitness, increased my body physique. I'm actually stronger but leaner. I can still run, and I just feel great. So it's getting optimal, and you can't get optimal on a plant-based, oxalate-ridden, crappy diet. And the first thing it kind of like triggered me is when I read that cyanide is in almonds. And I heard that. I was like, wait a second. I was eating almonds every day, a handful of almonds, drinking almond milk and stuff. I'm like, cyanide? I'm like, this can't be. So I found that. So that was like a trigger that I said, if a toxin is in a plant, and maybe if it's not even traceable if you're eating small amounts of almonds, but is a little bit of cyanide good? It can't be. A little bit of cyanide can't be good long term. And I don't think there's any studies on this. Long-term effects of eating small amounts of almonds for, let's say, 30, 40 years.
There absolutely are. Oh, yeah. No, it causes neurological damage and thyroid dysfunction. Yeah. Yeah, because we have a lot of data on, especially in the tropics, because they rely a lot on cassava, and cassava is teeming with cyanide. So there's sweet cassava and bitter cassava. Bitter cassava has so much cyanide it'll just kill you, and so they have to treat it and reduce the amount of cyanide in there, but it doesn't eliminate all the cyanide in it. And the sweet cassava has some cyanide in it, just like almonds have some cyanide in it. But like 2 pounds of almonds in a day can kill you.
Right.
So it's not trace, like it's there, and so so long-term low dose exposure to cyanide can cause neurological damage, thyroid dysfunction, and other end organ damage as well, especially in those who are protein deficient, that aren't meeting their their protein requirements. And the thing is that we look at these protein requirements and we look at, oh yeah, I'm sort of getting that, I'm almost there. Those are not a maximum. That's not a like, yes, you filled your requirement for today. That's a bloody minimum. And a lot of people are looking at that as like, oh, if I get enough of that or near that, then that's good enough. No, you want way past that. And so a lot of people are getting below that. And so especially in tropics, especially in these third world countries, it's a huge problem, because cassava is the third most important calorie source in all the tropics. And it is the primary calorie source for 500 million people around the world, or maybe 750 million. Yeah, between half a billion and 750 million people. So it's a major problem. I was actually speaking to a patient about this the other day, and I haven't corroborated this number, but they were saying that they had looked this up, and that the WHO had said that maximum safe, acceptable dose of cyanide in a food product was like 10 milligrams a day, or whatever that's what they said. So I don't know exactly what that is, but that was what they're saying. The point is that there is a limit. They're saying, well, it's maximum this, but there's tapioca flour, which comes from cassava and has cyanide in it, and there's cassava chips. You go to Bali or in Indonesia, it's just bags of cassava chips, right? And almonds, obviously. Nowhere on those packages does it say, hey, this is how much cyanide this contains. Don't eat more than 2 bags in a day, or you'll reach your limit for cyanide. Nowhere it says that. And of course, no one would buy that crap if they had, hey, this is your maximum amount of cyanide that you can have today. And so, and also, they don't, who's checking? No one's checking these things. So there are no safeguards, there's no controls, and there's no warning for anybody that, hey, this has cyanide, this is how much cyanide, and this is how much their maximum is. And so don't have more than this. There are no safeguards. There's no safety rails on any of this stuff. And that's just cyanide. They have that upper limit for cyanide. But what about all the other toxins that are in plant? What about solanine? Solanine kills people. And yet no warning labels about solanine on tomatoes or potatoes, eggplants, peppers, all these sorts of things, or how much is safe, and what to do if if you get too much of a dose. So yeah, it's pretty shocking actually that that we're allowed to put all this garbage in there. There are known maximums of certain things, and yet nowhere does it say what that maximum is, or even that there's a toxin in there that has a maximum, which I think is absolutely just completely out of bounds. I mean, this is actually, damaging people. It's clearly damaging people.
Yeah, and you'll see the like the pharmaceuticals, the drugs will have those warnings. We would say, well, don't take too much medication, or street drugs, like don't do too much heroin or cocaine because it's a toxin. And when I read about the cyanide, I didn't see those studies. I just knew. I'm like, it has to accumulate in the body. It's going to accumulate in the cells, in the tissue, in the brain. You can't keep eating cyanide and not have it affect you.
Yeah,
and intuitively, I said, no freaking way. And then when I read about the oxalates, and you'll hear people say, well, don't eat the leaves of a rhubarb plant because it's highly toxic. If you ate a few leaves, you'd be dead. Well, wait a second. What about spinach? 4 grams of spinach, or I think 3.5 grams of spinach, can kill you. Here, I'm blending about 600 to maybe 1,000 milligrams of spinach a day because I'm blending it and chugging it.
Well, so I'm getting grams of oxalates, I think, is
oxalates.
Yeah, it's like 3.54 grams of oxalates.
Yeah,
at least.
And I'm getting maybe 1,000 milligrams. I'm getting a third of that. I'm like, oh dear God. I'm like, this is insane. So I'm like, done with spinach, done with almonds. And, that's once I learned that, because that's a simple, I mean, everyone eats spinach. We hear spinach is good. Spinach is the deep greens. It's good for you. I put my foot on the brake and I said, whoa, wait a second. I got to go down this rabbit hole. I got to start looking into this. And when I just looked up, and I think it was you or Dr. Baker said, just get a botany book and look up plants.
Yeah.
And every you Google this and it will say plants have toxins, inner toxins built into them. Because my patients would say, yeah, but that's the spray. I said, no, the spray on is just excess. You eat organic spinach, it's bad for you. And if it's a little bit bad, why even do it? When I eat my steak from my farm, my cows are grass fed. All they do is grass and hay in the wintertime and drink well water. There's no toxicity level. When they eat the greens, it processes through their body, so it doesn't convert into oxalates into my body. I get pure meat, but I get all the nutrients. And I thought, why have to eat the plants then? This doesn't make any sense. So that just, hopefully, if you hear this, go do your research and start looking at this and find the science. And if you find the science, you'll see how clear it is. It's irrefutable. And that's what blew me away, is why haven't I learned this before? I've gone to conferences and would get speakers. And when my podcast for like a year and a half, I did over 150 episodes. And that's where I found Professor Noakes and Belinda Fetke. And I started hearing these people, but majority of people would say, eat a plant-based diet. Get your greens, get your vegetables. It was the same thing over and over. And I got sick of it. I'm like, I'm done with the podcast. So yeah, the research and the science is out there if you dig into it. And if you just hear that one thing about the cyanide, shouldn't it trigger you to say, wait a second, where is more? And that's what it did for me.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad that that got you. And yeah, I mean, cyanide is toxic to all life. I mean, almonds and the other plants, there's about 2,500 different plants that we know of that will use cyanide as basically like a kill switch. If you chew into that, if start macerating this, it gets crushed, it will release two chemicals that join to make cyanide. And so it's like a kill switch, because it would damage the plant too, it would kill the plant too. So it can't just have it there floating around. And so you chew into it and it just goes, all right, we're getting killed anyway. We're taking you with me. We're taking you with us, so at least you can't go and, eat more of us, down the road. And it's very toxic to the mitochondria, as we're coming to understand now, is very important for metabolic health and chronic diseases and cancers and things like that. So it directly damages the mitochondria. And so low grade exposure to this is going to toxify and damage your mitochondria throughout your body, in your brain, in your body, in your heart, and all your organs. So it's absolutely nasty stuff. And the people that say, well, but this is just the stuff we spray on them. It's just, people have this thought that the only bad things that exist on earth are done by humans. It's like, no, there are actual things out there that'll kill you. Nature is wild. It's kill or be killed. And so, if you eat the wrong plant when you're out in the wild, like, you will die. Most plants out in the wild will kill you. And, and I sort of say to them, it's just like, before we had all these, humanitarian volunteers going around spraying pesticides to protect all the plants from all these bugs and insects, like, they had protection. They were able to protect themselves. This isn't a charity mission, for spraying these plants. And how do these plants exist before we started spraying pesticides on them? Those plants are completely resistant and poisonous to nearly every bug and animal that exists in this world. It's just there are some that have genetic adaptations and evolutionary adaptations to be able to weather and detoxify those specific toxins in that plant. But that's why we do GMOs. We add another protein that is toxic to other plants. It makes it more toxic. It's like, no, we're breeding these things to be less and less toxic. Well, that would mean we'd need more and more pesticides, and pesticides cost money. So in fact, we're breeding these to be more toxic, which is what GMOs are. They make them they make them cold resistant, they make them drought resistant, but they also make them locust resistant and and aphid resistant and all that sort of stuff. That's with toxins. So they're becoming more toxic, and so they can use less pesticides. Yeah. And the pesticides are just there to fill the gaps, but the pesticides we spray on them fill the gaps. But the plants themselves already have an abundance of pesticides already in them, and we've known that for decades. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor at Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even around here, I'm outside of Pittsburgh. There's these farmers, and they're small farmers. They may have like 10, 15 cows like me. They may have 20 or 30, but they're not raising, it's not an industry here. They're just doing it for themselves in the community. And they even tell me they can't get corn that hasn't have built-in pesticides and herbicides in it. Genetically modified corn. They can't even get natural corn anymore. And they're trying not to, because they don't want it. Local farmers don't want this stuff. They know how bad it is, but it's the industry is making this the common, and they can't get it. So it's happening not just at the big global industry, these farmers that are raising hundreds, thousands of cows. This is small farmers that are trying to do it too. So I don't do anything on my farm. What's interesting is my cows, my sheep, the goats. I have 2 emus too, and I just have them for fun, and they won't eat anything unless it's of what they eat. You can't try to feed them something. They'll come up and look at it and just walk away. They just not their food. They know. And here we as humans, we force feed ourselves. As soon as we get our taste buds triggered, God, we're going down a bad path, and my patients will ask me and they'll say, well, doc, I like ice cream. I like bread. I like this stuff. And they're like, don't you like that? And I said, it tastes, it's sugar. It's a drug. Of course. If I eat it, I will crave it. And I would like it. I would get sick, but I would like it because it's a sugar. It's a drug. But I don't need it now. And I haven't had any of that in a year and a half, and I don't miss it. I have a big steak, put some butter on it, satisfied. And yeah, it's an industry it's not just it's affecting every angle. You got to be really careful. And if we get the meats, even if they're not organic grass fed like mine, I still believe it's healthier than all this plant based stuff and the almond milks and the soy burgers that I was doing before. So it can be done. It's just you just have to be aware of what you're trying to put in and be aware of what the industry's doing and just start making some efforts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always funny when they say, well, I like ice cream and I like this. I'm like, I bet you'd like cocaine too. Not really the point. It's,
Right.
it's not really
It's a
not.
drug.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I said earlier, we've known that there were, natural pesticides in plants for decades, known and been able to quantify and show how much for at least decades, but we've known there's been toxins in plants for millennia. We've always known that. We've been using plants. I mean, Socrates was killed by drinking, they gave him hemlock, so we knew that these things were toxic. We used plants to murder people and execute people going back millennia. So, this is something we've always known about. And just in the last 100 years, this whole plant-based push, the Seventh-day Adventists and the processed food cartels, generally started and run by the Seventh-day Adventists, that change is saying, oh, plants are healthy, plants are healthy, plants are healthy, plants are healthy. The Lena Cooper, who founded the American Nutritional and Dietetics Association, then called the American Dietetics Association, like 1918. She was a Seventh-day Adventist, and she was pushing this plant-based agenda because they are religiously anti-meat. They thought that it caused you to have lustful feelings and want to have sex. My goodness, and perpetuate the race. What a sin. And she was pushing this from early 20th century. Wrote one of the first textbooks on nutrition that was taught in colleges in 1925. This is from the outset. It's not that they've invaded and corrupted the nutritional sciences. They founded it in the first place. They started out corrupt. They started out biased, and then we just forgot all this knowledge going back to antiquity about how toxic plants are. And it's just insanity. We're just so living in this mass delusion, where we think that we're in the Garden of Eden and that no plants can harm us. It's absolutely nuts. But I'm glad that you figured that out. It sounds like you're doing really well. It sounds like your kids are interested in this as well. What has your family thought about that? I'm sure they thought you were crazy for a while, but then have they come around? What is your family eating now too?
They're eating more meat. They're not carnivore, but way more meat. Even my little grandson, I have 5 grandkids, and he was
Nice.
probably a year old. And my daughter sends a picture. He has a steak bone chewing on it, teething. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's it. Good job. He loves meat. Um, it's funny. My wife, we had a small garden, and she would plant tomatoes and greens and stuff, not much. So she did it last year. And, as I was going through this carnivore, she planted it and planted stuff. And the kid said, Mom, why did you do that? And she goes, I didn't think he would do it this long. I didn't think he would stay on it this long. And I said, hon, there's no way I'm going back. I
Mm.
mean, when you find toxins and you find damage and non-optimal, why go back? And it doesn't taste good. Eating a salad sucks. I would eat a huge salad, and an hour later, I'm starving and I'm craving. I'm like, I can eat a big steak, and I get on the scale. My weight has gone down. So I'm still down. I weigh about 162 to 165, and I started at 175. I feel great. I can run and still play rugby. Why am I'm getting more nutrients from this? So but because I have meat, I supply my kids with all the meat. So we butchered up 2 cows last year. I didn't sell any because I'll probably eat all that. I'll probably eat, at least a full cow myself this year with lamb and my eggs. So they eat eggs all the time. We supply them with eggs. So they're getting it from dad. So
Yeah.
they're definitely doing more. And it's an education thing. I mean, they've seen me do crazy things. I mean, I've ran ultra marathons. I still play rugby. I ran some marathons in the day. I just am always adventurous, and I'm like, I got to try something. I'll do something. And this is not a fad. This is a discovery of what I should have known my entire life. And once it's similar to exercise and fitness. I don't exercise, 5, 6 days a week because it's a fad. It's a lifestyle choice because I want to be optimal. If I stop exercising, I'm not going to be optimal. If I don't check my alignment, my posture, and my um, keeping my nerve system optimal, I'm not going to be optimal. If I don't eat properly, I'm not going to be optimal. So it's a standard that is part of my core. It's not a I every once in a while I'll cold plunge. I'll do that for fun. I don't think that's a standard. I don't think that's necessary. Going out barefoot in the grass, getting grounded. I think that's okay, but it's not as profound as eating or exercise or even spinal alignment. Um, Getting in a cold shower is good, but it's not that profound. And so this is something here to say. And a lot of my patients, it's interesting. I put together a 40-minute not a podcast, like a Zoom call webinar. I put it on a video on my website, and I just refer people there because they're always asking, "Are you sure I can do it? What do you think I need to do?" I'm like, "Just go listen to this." So I took all your information, all the books information, just put it in a PowerPoint, a 40-minute PowerPoint video. I said, listen to this. So I believe more of my patients are eating more meat. My staff is. My doctor associate who works with me, Brent, he saw how I was working out and like, son of a gun, this guy's 15 years older than me, and he can work out harder than me. He's lean, he's in shape. I'm going to do it. So he went carnivore. He's lost 20 pounds, feels great, feels like he's gone back like 20 years in aging. So it's proof. It does work. And I think, when my patients ask or family, I'm like, just eat more meat. Start there. Start with a steak. Don't eat salad. Eat a big steak. Start eating more meat. And I have found, and based on research, red meat, more optimal, has way more nutrients. If I eat chicken, I'm starving. If I eat chicken, I have to eat the skin. So I just don't eat chicken much. I had turkey the other day, and I woke up with an upset belly. My stomach was growling. I had diarrhea. I'm like, from turkey. And that's all I ate because it wasn't as nutrient dense and as fat dense as my beef. So when I eat my beef and my lamb and my eggs, I never have GI issues. I go to the bathroom once a day, never have any problems there. Feel satisfied, and I know I'm getting my nutrients. So it's if you're having that debate of what should I do, just eat more meat. Start with eat 5 hamburgers in one day and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I think that's really good advice. People that are doing this, just have dinner, just start with a steak, just eat as much as you can, as much as you feel like, and then just to see how you go. Yeah, it's I've heard people, well, Dr. Salisbury, when he had the Salisbury diet and the Salisbury steak, it's just red meat and water, and this, cured what ailed you. And that influenced people for, decades after that. And then I think, the nutritional bodies and things like that from the Seventh-day Adventists started taking over and started, shifting the needle. But and also there was a big movement in the 1800s to go away from meat, because long before the Seventh-day Adventists, said that this was an act of God. It was just the thought that if you as part of the temperance movement, as part of the sort of puritanical Victorian era, that if you ate less meat and you ate a higher bland plant-based diet, this would suppress sexual urges, and this was a good thing because obviously it's just so sinful to want to reproduce. But in fact, when you look at animals, when they aren't interested in mating and reproduction, it means there's something wrong. They're sick. Their diet is deficient. They're malnourished. Their hormones are out of balance, because that's what life is about. It's about making more life. And so if your body is telling you, hey, look, you're not going to make it, don't have kids, that means something's very wrong. And but they said that I saw that someone was writing up about carnivore diet and this, that, and the other. They referred back to Salisbury, and they said that was the original fad diet. It was just this, it's flash in the pan, didn't work, all this. Well, it did work. Damn well did work. They didn't even claim that it didn't work. They just said it was, came and went. But the whole point of the idea of a fad is that it's, you're cutting out all these things. It's not good for you. It's not sustainable. And it's like a short-term thing, and it burns itself out. What we've been eating for millions of years cannot be a fad by definition, because we've been eating it for millions of years. So it's not short-term.
Right.
That's the norm. That's established. That's what's been happening for millions of years. Plants are the fad. Plants are what happened recently. And so this whole vegetarian thing, plant-based thing, that's the fad. It's just we're living in it. Unfortunately, but we're just sort of in the, in the microscopic view. When we pull out to the geological view, you don't even see plants on that line. It's just meat. So, it's just a matter of getting this back out there so we can get out of the current fad that we're in, eating this highly processed junk garbage, and this agricultural, post-agricultural, plant-based diet. That stuff needs to go. We need to go back. We need to cut the fad and go back to our original diet that we've been eating for millions of years. Aaron, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think that a lot of people can take a lot from this and be very inspired by this. I mean, it's just a simple fact that, you're still going, you're still so active, and you're just showing that, like, look, this is, is still early middle aged, if not even less than that. If you look at like Alexander the Great, his soldiers were anywhere from 20 to in their 60s, holding a 14-foot long steel spear with a 5-foot long blade on it, just absolutely lacing people with like a 50-to-1 kill ratio, and just took over most of the known world. Guys in their 60s, they had a general that was leading from the front at the head of his cavalry at 78, right? So this is something that our bodies are much more than capable of. My friend Dr. Sean O'Mara said that he thinks that in the future, if people start going carnivore and things like that, and staying carnivore and living their whole lives carnivore, that you'll see some of the top athletes in the world in their 50s and 60s. And that's kind of jarring to think about. But if your body's working the same way it did in your 20s and 30s, and you have another 40 years of experience, that's not, that's going to be pretty formidable. So I'm excited to see how you do in the coming years. And like, I want to see if you start pushing yourself in the sprints and the exercise and try to really like go after it like you're 22 again, and see how badass a shape you can get into, and see what you can do in the coming years.
I'll let you know that little challenge gets some fire under me. Anytime that happens, like, or if there was a game we played once, and we were playing a college team, and I went out to do the coin toss and stuff, and the kid looks at me and goes, "Hey, what's up, Gramps?" All right. Well, I scored the first try, and I kicked for the team. So I lined up and looked at him. I'm like, I smiled at him. I'm like, "You son of a gun." And it's fun. And there was something, and those kind of fire. It's like, we need to find that fire. One thing, and this probably sparked me for a good 5 years. We played the Highland Games. We do a game to entertain the people at a Highland Games event. So we played a college team, and I think I scored 2 or 3 tries,
Nice.
kicked a bunch, and it was just, I had like a phenomenal game. This is about 3 years ago. So my daughter's in college, and she's sitting in class, and she's the one who's down at Life in Georgia now, in chiropractic school. And they said her name, Sydney Tressler. And the kid looked at her. He goes, "You're Sydney Tressler?" He goes, "Does your dad play rugby?" She goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "He kicked our ass on Saturday." So she told me that. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So it's those kind of challenges or sparks I'm in for another 5 years. I said, all right, I'm going to keep playing. So I'll keep you informed. And hopefully, it's one of those things that inspires people to just go out and do more, not give up,
Yeah,
and whatever that is. And I think, I get that from other people, and I hope this does puts a little fire underneath somebody else to get them to go out and do it.
absolutely. Well, great, Aaron. It was an absolute pleasure meeting you finally. It's been great to talk to you on email and now in person. Can you tell everybody, do you have social media and things like that, or a website or anything like that people can go to?
Yeah, if they go to innate life, the number eight, life.com, that's my website, that's my Facebook, Instagram, those type of things. They type in my name, you'll find me. We do a lot of social media stuff out there, a lot of education. And if I can help in any way or do anything for anyone, let me know. I love being a part of the community, educating and inspiring.
Perfect. We'll put
And
those
and I
up.
want to
Yeah.
thank you again. What you guys are doing. I know how much work it takes to put on a podcast, and the work the busy work you're being a doctor in the hospital and then doing this. You're changing lives, and you changed my life, and I want to thank you for that. You've changed my family, and you're changing my patients because of what you're doing. It just keeps spreading, and that's why I was so excited that I love telling my story, because I hope that it does the same for somebody else. So keep it up, and I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And great. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Please do take a look at Aaron's website down in the description, and hit the like and follow and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If there are any rugby players out there doing this on a carnivore diet, let us know how you're going in the comments. And anybody who's revitalized their career, even better to hear from. There are pro rugby players revitalizing their career recently with our carnivore diet, so that's always great to see. So if anyone are watching, let us know. Love to hear from you. Okay, thanks everyone. Hey guys, thank you very much for taking the time out to listen to what I had to say. If you like it, then please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and podcast. And if you're on YouTube, then please hit that little bell and subscribe, and that'll let you know anytime I have a new video out, which should be every week, if not more. And if you could share this with your friends, that would help me get the word out and let me know that you like what I'm doing. Thanks again, guys.